Stories, monsters, mysteries. You're listening to Talking Weird. And now, from a cabin deep in the Northwoods, your hosts, Dr. Dean Bertram and Jen Durrell.
Well, hey, baby.
Hey, baby.
How was your day at the mysterious haunted location that we can never name that you work at?
It was fine. It was fine. Just worked in some archiving all day. That's about it.
I think you've archived before and you felt presences in that part of the building, though. Am I right?
It's throughout the whole building,
Okay.
but yeah, the area that's considered just the archive room, that area, the older portion, yeah, it's a little bit more active.
Any activity today?
I didn't notice anything. We had the fans going because it is freaking hot here. So
I think you can use a fan to, according to Casper the Ghost cartoons, you can use a fan to like blow a ghost away. I think I saw that on some Casper once, maybe. I don't know. That's where I get my ghost knowledge from, Casper and Ghostbusters.
Oh, yes.
I leave you to the
Casper the
stuff.
friendly ghost.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you what, though, I am super excited about tonight's guests. They're incredible gentlemen. I'm fascinated with the research that they do. They're a father and son team, and the father is the founder and director of the Cryptid Studies Institute. Born in the foothills of Appalachia, he grew up hearing the tales of Sasquatch and the supernatural, which only furthered his love and curiosity to search out those cryptids and others. When he is not in the field, he is a part-time speaker and preacher specializing in creation, evolution, and dinosaurs. His son is the co-owner of the Cryptid Studies Institute and is host of the fantastic YouTube series, Nightmare Nuggets of Cryptid Terror. He has been engaged in the cryptid field since 2002, and when he's not editing or creating the latest Nightmare Nugget, he enjoys active field research. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome tonight's guests, Johnny and Elijah Henderson. Welcome, Johnny and Elijah.
Hello. How y'all doing?
Oh, I'm doing so well because you're on the show, but you've got a massive storm punching through Tennessee at the moment, you said.
Yes, ironically, we haven't had rain hardly in a week or so, not any significant rain. And then tonight when we've got to do the show, they're saying that we're supposed to have storms coming through from about 10 o'clock on through the evening hours with winds up to 60 mile an hour, half-inch hail. So we're just waiting on it to get here. The lights have been flickering here a few minutes ago. You may hear the thunder rumbling as things are starting to kick off.
So hopefully the electric will hold on.
Yeah, so if it kicks us off, we apologize. It one of them act of gods, I suppose.
Indeed. Well, it's certainly atmospheric given some of the subjects we're going to be talking about tonight. But to start us off, for those in our audience who mightn't be aware of your work, can you tell us a little bit about the Cryptid Studies Institute?
Well, Cryptid Studies Institute is not actually an institute as people would think. Most people think of a school or something of that nature, but an institute is actually a collective of people like-minded. And that's where the name come from, Cryptid Studies Institute. But a lot of times it gets confused with a school or like a university or something like that, which I probably should have thought differently about the name, but that's it.
We're past it now.
Yeah, we're a little past it now. But we try to bring as much truthful research to the field as we can. We don't charge people for it. I know there are groups that charge people to take them out in the field and go and look for a Bigfoot or whatever, and we don't do that. We don't try to set on information for Patreon money. If we get information, we try to share it.
Yeah, you guys have always seemed in your videos to be very open and honest, and to use an old phrase, gentlemanly. There seems to be a certain vibe to you two, which isn't something I'm necessarily used to seeing all the time in the cryptid field, to be honest.
My apologies. Our internet just started buffering and flickering. We didn't catch hardly a word.
Oh,
No,
that's
no.
okay. No, I was just complimenting how gentlemanly you two are and how sincere you seem to be in all of your research. There doesn't seem to be any airs or graces. You guys seem very, very honest and down to earth and trustworthy, to be honest.
Well, thank you.
We try to be as down to earth as possible. There's no reason to try to bring egos into the field, because there are no experts. I don't care what anybody tells you. I don't know anybody that's actually bagged a Bigfoot or a Dogman and have samples anywhere. People can say anything, but most of it's just chin music.
Yeah, and there's enough negativity in the world anyway. Might as well, I don't know, be as kind as you can.
Yeah, and no sense being. Well, not physically anyway, or any other than physical. Yeah.
But speaking of Dogman, how I think I first became particularly aware of your work was when you broke the LBL Beast. Well, you were already doing a lot of work in the LBL, the Beast of LBL story, but when you, I suppose, broke the story of a witness who came forward called Roger, who was an actual claimed to be an eyewitness to that actual hideous event. Now, for listeners who might know a lot about Beast of LBL, could you guys maybe set the stage, like say where Land Between the Lakes is, and then maybe roll in from there into what the mythology was around the beast there?
Yes. Would you like this first part, son?
Yes. We caught basically every other word of that. But basically, you want
I think we piece it together, though.
Kind of set the stage of how we came into contact with Roger and got into the Beast of LBL story in general, right?
And the mythology around the Beast of the LBL.
Oh, okay. Well, I suppose the first time we really heard of the Beast of LBL was there's a couple of gentlemen we used to go researching with multiple years back. Every few years we get together and go to a state park around here or a few away.
We used to research Werewolf Springs a lot.
Werewolf Springs was a big one for us. And one of those gentlemen brought a documentary over here to the house called Hunt the Dogman, made by Bart and Nunley. Y'all probably familiar with it. And it was the first documentary to discuss the Beast of LBL story. It had an interview with Dan Thompson, who was the first person to really break the story through Bart and Nunley. And after we heard that, we just kind of were interested in it. We thought it was, probably a Bigfoot in the beginning. We've since changed our mind about that.
Yeah, I had actually heard about it before, but I'd heard stories about a family supposedly dying down there. But I didn't put much stock in it because I've lived on and off around this area a lot of my life, and I thought we're about an hour from Between the Lakes right now, and I thought that, well, if that was such a thing, was true, I would have heard about it. Even though I did on the news when I was little hear about a family getting killed down there, I never put two and two together. But I heard it prior to seeing the video.
I had no idea.
You had no idea. Well, I don't tell you everything.
But anyways, sometime after that, we decided we'd try to figure out where the area was. And we actually went down there a couple of times and scouted the area. And
went to the wrong location.
Yeah, I went to the wrong location. Thought we had the right spot for years. Turns out we were wrong.
Yeah, we went back to the drawing board and decided to, look at every clue that somebody had as to where the actual location was. And we pieced them together and took our best guess and went there and started looking. And we found all the hallmarks that the witnesses said was there, the iron fence, the old stakes and stuff where the RV slips were, the remnants of what appeared to be bathhouses, light poles that were cut down to the ground, like someone was really trying to let the wilderness retake that spot.
And the honest answer is, before we found that spot, we really didn't like coming to LBL a whole lot in the first place because it's such a big area. Despite what a lot of people think, you don't get a whole lot of activity from anything there.
Yeah, it's a huge area there, and if you just you could spend weeks and weeks there and never get in an area that had activity, if you just didn't know where to go.
It's the largest inland peninsula in America, and I actually recall we got lost a few times down there at night.
Yeah, in the early days, you know, but we were staying more in the south and over on the, I guess, well, the left-hand side of the park. But it seems like when you go down there that the Sasquatch activity seems to stay to the south, and more of the Dogman activity seems to stay to the north.
Could you tell us a little bit about some of the attacks there? I mean, you can talk about perhaps the famous RV attack, but I know there's a number of reported Dogman or werewolf type attacks in that area.
Right. There, the LBL is kind of a weird place, and I'll answer your question. There have been legends, rumors of dogmen and werewolf creatures going back, I've heard, till the 1700s. You know, when trappers would claim that there was a rougarou in the forest. Some people claim there was a skinwalker. You even have some people that maintain that there is a certain family down there, but nobody will name that certain family, that they think is actually werewolves and transform and use the place as a hunting ground. So it's got a reputation for having some sort of a creature there that's killed stock, screamed, and cried out in the night and terrorized people for a couple hundred years now. And over the years, there have been somewhere, you know, I think we sat down with Barton recently and calculated all the stories we've heard. Not all of them have made it, you know, as big as Roger's tale. But there are upwards of 15 people that may have lost their life to these creatures since around 1974 in the park. But the story with Roger, I think that's what you were asking. Can we tell a little bit about the Roger incident?
Please do.
Yes. Roger, if whoever doesn't know it, Roger is a gentleman that contacted us back in December to talk to us about the video that we made, The Bloodthirsty Beast of Land Between the Lakes. And he let us know that we had some things right and we had some things wrong. And but the incident itself, you know, the myth is that a family of four went to the LBL and they were camping. As they were setting up, a creature, a huge creature, beset them, fell on the family, killed the dad, killed the son, tore them to pieces, just slaughtered them, and then went inside, you know, and killed mother and daughter and drugged the daughter up into a tree and laid the body up there, and it was found there. And pieces of the family was just scattered about. Now, that is what the rumor mill has and what has become the popular myth. And I say myth because, according to Roger, nothing like that was what transpired. According to Roger, he said he was a 15-year-old boy and he had befriended the family that was in question. They were an Amish family or had been Amish, and they had left the Ordnung and were living in this motor home, and he befriended them, and his family let them go on a trip with this family. They were going to visit the state park and there in Kentucky, Tennessee. And when they got to the park, they had been there maybe an hour, hour and a half, possibly 2 hours. I'm not sure. And the dad and the son were out gathering firewood. They'd already set up the RV, and they were gathering some firewood. And Roger was inside the trailer getting a little shotgun ready. He was going to go clinking some cans, which he probably shouldn't have done because that's a federal offense to have a gun in a park. But I don't know that it was really enforced back in the early 80s. 81, I believe it was. Was it? Or was it 82? 82, yes, 82. And as he was trying to get his cans and his gun ready, they heard a commotion, and the dad and the son, you know, started like in a bit of turmoil, heading back to the vehicle. The young boy Stephen was trying to come around and get in the door, and the dad went to the passenger's or the driver's side and retrieved a shotgun behind the seat and turns out a creature was coming up out of the holler behind them, and they were trying to get inside and get away from it. Well, before Levi could get the shotgun, one of the creatures or the creature had already grabbed Stephen, and he commenced to trying to free his son and shot the creature, but some of the pellets ended up hitting Stephen in the shoulder as well, and the creature finished Stephen off and then ran up on Dad and started to attack him as well. And unfortunately, he died in the melee as well. And the creature turned and started coming back about the time that Roger opened the door and saw the creature coming. He just instinctively fired with the 12 gauge or the 410
crack shot,
and break barrel, and hit the creature in the right side, upper neck and stuff. And it went down on its left side, jumped up, and ran off down in the holler. And about that time, the girl started clamoring that it was coming through the window. So a second one was coming through the back window on the vehicle and attacked them. At that point, Roger panicked, and since he only had the one shell, he just, I guess, threw the shotgun down and rolled under the vehicle and wedged himself between the drive shaft and the vehicle until everything was over. And when things calmed down, he ran away for help. That's kind of in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. And you guys are doing an ongoing investigation, as far as I understand, on what's going on as far as with the Beast of LBL, and also regarding Roger's story. Has anything else come to light? Because I know in the past you've asked him, for example, about the whether they were police agents or the government agents who came afterwards and took him back to the location when they were investigating. I think he mentioned one of them was called Walt and the other one he couldn't remember. And I recall him saying something along the lines of he'd be able to pick them out if he ever saw photos of them. Has there been any research into who might have been or what was the government agency that came in and looked into that case afterwards?
Well, now you're breaking up really bad, but I think we honestly are picking up like a word, every other word.
Every other 2 words, maybe.
Something like that. I'm not sure what it is. Usually when we do one of these streamlines, if there's two, like if her screen went blank for a minute and you asked the question, we would probably be able to hear, or if yours went out and she asked the question, we'd be able to hear. I'm not sure what the problem is. But I think you're asking about him going for help and then a government agent coming to pick him up, and what happened with all that?
Yeah. Have you been able to identify the agents at all? I know there was talk of looking into who they might have been.
Have we been able to identify the
Yes, we somewhat, yes, but that's information I can't talk about. That's more of Roger's story that I'm not allowed to get into, but there have been a few discoveries made in that area, and I hope that he updates everybody on that very soon. In fact, we'll probably have a show this week with him.
I know he's been wanting to do another show and kind of tell everybody,
what's been going on with him. Actually, lately, a lot of people have, I shouldn't say a lot of people, but Roger has allegedly, according to him, been being stalked on his property by people, watching him, following him, and things of that nature, and has even had to have an altercation with some people since his story broke. So we're still trying to find out exactly who those people are that's been hindering and harassing him. But he did find the name of the agent that worked with him, but I'm not allowed to give that name. Something for him to tell.
On a slightly different tack, what is your interpretation, or what do you have theories on what the Dogman might be? Like if it's physical or spiritual, or if it's a combination, or what its origins are, or anything like that?
Some theories on what the actual creature is. What our thoughts on it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I think I know, something else comes to light, and it almost changes. How do I say this? I think there is a real biological creature there, but I think some cases there's a spiritual application, and then I would not even be surprised if on other occasions there's not some sort of like tampering been going on.
I think you got a few things going on.
Yeah, at different locations. Now,
I think some of it may be amalgamation between man and animal, just some kind of strange natural occurrence.
And then, something of a spiritual nature in different cases. Down there, man, I'm not even supposed to be talking about this yet.
Are you going for it?
I'm going for it a little bit. I'm going to tell you something that
we rarely
a friend of ours. Well, no, not that. A friend of ours was down there recently, and he got a photograph, and he don't want to talk about it because there's so much conflict in the cryptid realm. He don't want to get drug into it, but he was in the area and went down to do some research, and either something was trying to creep up on them or they heard a noise in the woods. I can't remember exactly how the story went, but he had thermal, and he turned it to the darker setting where everything's kind of almost a black and white thermal.
Mm-hmm.
And he got something while something was creeping up on one side or making noise in one area. He got a picture of something in thermal, and I promise you it looked like something from the movie The Howling.
Wow.
Literally, you can see the ears, you can see the muzzle, but I'm not allowed to show those pictures to anybody because he doesn't want them seen, him and his partner, because he don't want to get caught up in some kind of controversy with people, because everybody's got to question everything.
Yeah.
But that has lit a fire under me so bad that I want to keep going back and researching it. And I can't wait until it cools off so we can spend significant time down there again.
There have been some reports that come out of there that the beast has a bit of a hyena-ish appearance. This thing, its ears almost had kind of the same kind of roundness that a hyena's ears does. So it looked very similar.
But it reminded me more of like one of the werewolves off the original Howling movie than anything. And
film.
Yes, and he's tried every way to figure out a natural excuse for what he filmed, and has yet to be able to do it. He's not wanting to jump right to, I got a picture of the Beast of LBL. He's trying to think, well, is this a tree stump or something? There is no way. You can see the muzzle. You can see the arch of the back as it's like creeping up over the hill. You can see the ears, the shape of the head. And like I said, it has just lit a fire under me. I cannot wait till I can go spend enough time there to really encounter this thing.
Hopefully that picture will surface fairly soon.
I'd love to see it. Has there been any other evidence of late found there, like a tracks ever found in that area, which look like they might be large canid tracks or anything like that?
We have found some things that we believe are tracks. Some people said they didn't think it looked like it, but the one that we showed was kind of distorted where it had been raining. But we found another whole slew of tracks that was just in a bipedal sequence that was bigger than the one we found. We're convinced that it was canid tracks, but we can't prove it.
Now, ironically, I can't remember how recently it was uploaded, but a couple of guys on YouTube, they uploaded a video of them going to a supposedly haunted campsite down at LBL, and they found some canine tracks down by the beach, and it was laid out almost like
it was laid out in a bipedal,
just one after the other.
Huh.
So I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting.
We found that. We also went and hunted up that haunted campsite. And,
yeah, we were down there.
It definitely looks like some place you would encounter one of these dog creatures.
Interestingly, there's a tent kind of abandoned found up there.
Yeah, that's something strange about the LBL. It's not uncommon to find abandoned, mangled tents around the park, and recently there's a Facebook page called LBL Abandoned Sites and Cemeteries. Well, somebody found a tent that was torn up and collapsed around. leaves had settled all over it. So this had to have been from back in the fall. But yet all the fishing rods were still there, all the cookware and everything. People do not just abandon their tents with all their equipment there. And just a couple of days after it was reported on there, the site was scrubbed and cleaned up perfect where you can't tell that there was ever a tent there.
Huh.
Wow. Do you worry about your physical safety? Like, do you take precautions or take weapons or anything should you encounter one of these things?
We don't worry too much.
Yeah, I don't worry. You know, like I was telling you before the show, my wife recently passed away. If something grabs me, it just sends me to my wife's arms quicker. So,
well, also, if you got attacked by it, I mean, I don't want to be insensitive to anybody, but that's one of the coolest ways you could go out.
Yeah, if you got to die, can you imagine a better death than that?
I mean, you could go out in a really lame way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'd much rather get mauled by a dog man than just be hit by a tobacco truck crossing the street or something. I mean, that'd be some bragging rights. Come on. We all got to die from something. It might as well be dramatic.
That's true. Did you guys and Barton Nunley find anything on your most recent expedition down there?
He's been down there with us a couple of times. You know, Bart's determined he's going to take his sword Nightmare and end one of these things. And, you know, I hope he gets the chance, you know.
I think he asked if we found anything on
did you say, did we find anything?
Yeah, but that was a good story.
Did we take Bart with us? Yes, we did take Bart with us. No, we didn't have anything. Both times we went, it was just so hot. I mean, it was ridiculous hot. That it would, I don't think anything was really moving. And then the one time the second time we was down there, we heard some sort of a distant noise. We couldn't really tell what it was, but it started thundering and lightning and coming a storm. So we had to leave. And so it kind of ruined it. But we're going to be going back with Bart and spending some significant time down there. There's several places we want to go and check out. Sites of other alleged murders in the park that have taken place. The Roger incident gets all the attention, but there's things equally as dark that's happened down there that we want to look into.
Can you tell us about one or two of those other accounts?
Well, I can tell you a little bit about. Are you familiar with the North American Dogman Project, headed up by Jody Cook?
Yeah, I'm a little familiar with it.
Okay. Now Jody, he made a video a couple of years ago about the Beast of LBL, and in the video he interviews a gentleman named Glen, who claims that in 1978 or 79 that he used to work for the Fish and Game Commission in Kentucky and was down there where he would stock the fish and the different rivers and such. He didn't work at LBL, but on this particular morning in question, he happened to be fishing in LBL on a boat. And as he come around a bend, he saw a tent set up there on the bank. And he saw what he thought was a horse off to the side. And as he's floating around through there, he notices this thing is looking weird, you know, and he realizes it's not a horse. It's some kind of a large creature. As he's watching this thing, two people come out of a tent, and he starts hollering to these people, hey, look to your whatever direction it was. Look over there. Look over there. And these people think he's kind of being a jerk and yelling and screaming at them. They're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And he's trying desperately to get these people's attention. Well, this thing stands up on two legs and runs over and springs on them. It's holding it down with its hands and biting chunks out of them. Mm-hmm. He watches this thing kill two people in the 99. And he never reported it because he was worried, you know, about losing his job or getting entangled in something. You know, you call the police and tell them, hey, I just saw a creature kill two people, you know, and you're the only person around. They're liable to ask you a few questions about it. Said anything. He watched, you know, the newspapers, see if he saw anything about missing people or dead people. Never did. And it always bothered him because he held his peace. And according to Jody, he wanted to clear his conscience and basically made a deathbed confession because he was dying of cancer. And so another incident, I can't really go into many details of it because It was told to us in privacy, but somebody witnessed a creature step out of the bushes and kill somebody, and the newspapers reported it as something different, as a natural accident, even though there was a witness who saw it. So there's been a lot of strange supposed deaths down there that's happened at the hands of these creatures. Allegedly, now we weren't there, we can't prove it, but we aim to try to look into all of these.
There was another alleged incident of one of the park workers came upon a campsite. It was abandoned, but it looked like their tent had been cut open with a razor blade, and there was a trail of blood leading off the woods.
Not a huge amount of blood, but still blood, and the people were missing. As far as I know, they've never found them, but yet all their belongings were still there. So there's a lot of strange things go on in the LBL if the rumors are to be believed.
A lot of peculiar stuff. There was an alligator found there recently.
Yep.
Really?
And you know, we find it amazing that like we always buy the backwoods camping permits to go down there. You know, we don't want to go down there and sit in a camping area. We want to get out there in the midst of it. And we went and we figured we had to register something. We bought online. We went there to let the people in the park know where we was going to be at. And they're like, nope, just go find a place. And I'm like, don't you need to know where we'll be at in case there's an emergency? Nope, just go find you a place. And I always suspected that was probably to give them some deniability in case something did happen. You know, you come up missing. They, you know, your loved ones call and say, hey, where are my son and my grandchildren? Well, they bought permits. We don't know that they ever even showed up to the park. It'd be real easy to deny somebody was there if you didn't know where they were.
I know David Paulides has certainly suggested that there might be an active cover-up in national parks regarding people going missing. It sounds like you think there might be something similar going on in LBL in particular.
Well, I'd never be so bold as to launch an accusation against our fine government. You know, there could be ramifications for something like that. I'm just saying that it's definitely a curiosity. And nobody in their mind thinks our government would like do anything of a dubious nature.
Okay, that's a great finale to the LBL bit. Can you what other cryptids are you guys particularly interested in at the moment?
Oh my goodness. I'm wanting the Dogman. I am. I mean, when I was a kid, Wolfman was my favorite. I just love it. The fact that there's something there that shouldn't exist. You know, I'm a Christian. I don't believe in evolution. But even if, you know, people say there couldn't be one of these things, it couldn't exist. Well, if you're an evolutionist, and a lot of people in the cryptid industry is, how could you say there couldn't be? If, you know, you believe humans and apes diverged somewhere along the evolutionary ladder, then how do you know there wasn't another branch, you know, where dogs were starting to evolve? You know, even though I know there's some arguments about whether the hips would ever work and articulate to where it could stand upright. You know, anybody that's an evolutionist shouldn't argue it couldn't exist.
Wouldn't they be eager as can be?
Yeah, they ought to be eager to find there might have been some other branch form of evolution.
That goes the same with the lizard.
I guess the same thing with the lizard
like
man. I don't know how to explain them other than an amalgamation or something of a demonic nature, but there's definitely something out there. You know, if you look at Linda Godfrey, beautiful woman, great soul, who wrote a lot of amazing books. She tells of a witness in Land Between the Lakes who actually saw a mother dog man. Would that be right, dog man? A dog person that had 3 little ones following behind, walking upright across the road. So if there's a breeding population there, then that almost screams physical manifestation as opposed to probably a spirit being of some sort.
And that would kind of prove a litter of pups as compared to one per pregnancy.
Yeah, that would, and that's another thing. People go, well, why are everyone seeing more dogmen now than they are Bigfoots, whatever the proper term is?
I think it's Bigfoots.
Yeah, Bigfoots. That just sounds off to me, but
strange.
Still, yeah, it's strange. But if Bigfoot is a primate, and it's assumed that he is, and she assumed that they are primates, usually primates have one or two children, sometimes more than that, but not very often. But with a primate, you know, you have a baby, and it takes several years for it's big enough to, you know, when my wife had him, you know, it was 6-7 years for his up big enough to be any size. But if you have a dog, they usually have litters, and then within a year, you got a full-grown dog.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that's why people are seeing more of them, that they're just breeding heavier. And now some people, I don't know how they know it, have claimed that the dogmen are starting to significantly outnumber the big feet. For years, allegedly, they've been landlocked and trapped in the north because they don't go across the water and haven't pushed further south because of the big feet. Well, now that they're outnumbering the big feet, I think that might be the reason your dogmen push a little further south. They're getting a little more bold.
Now, you mentioned before that when we were talking about evolution and that you were a Christian, as am I. I'm also fascinated while we're talking about cryptids, talking to a fellow Christian. I know you say that one of your expertise as a pastor or as a preacher is talking about dinosaurs, and there's reports of things which seem to be relict dinosaur populations, like Mekele Mbembe in Africa and like Ropens in New Guinea. Can you tell me a little bit about your position on dinosaurs?
Oh, well, what do you want to know? I believe that, you know, God made dinosaurs right alongside man on day 6.
That's an exciting subject.
Yeah, that's a very exciting subject. I think that probably even Noah probably took a few of them on the ark with him, you know. The largest dinosaur egg was really only about the size of a football or a soccer ball. So, and it would make some sense, you know, if he did take any, you know, there's only about 5,000 basic pairs of animals. You know, there's a lot of variation in species, so you got a lot of different species, but Noah would have only had to have taken one of each kind, you know, like he wouldn't have had to take every dog in the world, just some sort of a basic breeding pair of canines. Same way with the dinosaurs. So there only been about 5,000 basic pairs, including the dinosaurs, so he could have taken those on there. And I think if he did, he probably took babies, because babies would have been much smaller. They'd have been less aggressive. They would have they sleep more, they eat less. So I think that dinosaurs have been contemporaries with man in throughout history. You know, you find images of them on the Ica stones and on the Grand Canyon wall, and you find fossilized dinosaur tracks alongside human tracks.
Yeah.
But we never hear these things, you know, because there's an agenda to be filled. You know, everyone wants to. Evolution would have you believe that man started out small, like a bacteria, and grew to be bigger. Well, if you look, the true history looks like man started out much larger and more robust than he was, and got smaller through sin, sickness, and degradation. Like here's a replica of I don't know if you can see this, of an Ica stone. They're about 700 or more years old, and this very clearly depicts a man with a dinosaur. Now, how would a man know what a dinosaur looks like unless they lived with them and saw them? Well, the first dinosaur, or the word dinosaur, wasn't even invented to 1841 by Sir Richard Owen, you know, and it was just a few years before that, before the first dinosaur bones had been found.
Now, one of the interesting things about those Ica stones there is that there's been a lot of people say, oh, those fake, an artist made those, but the black coating on these actually comes from a bacteria that takes an extremely long time for it to age and become this color. So it actually, they all have quite a bit of age to them.
Yeah, people act like, you know, it takes forever, you know, for something to fossilize, and it really doesn't. Down at LBL, I actually found a steak bone in the water's edge where somebody, I guess, had just had dinner and threw the steak shrapnel in the water, and the bone was already completely fossilized. and it's only been a park since what, like the 60s or 50s or 60s.
Yeah, something like
And you can see the striations on the bone where the butcher had cut through it with a saw.
Huh.
So there's a lot of things, in the dating method that doesn't add up, that really leads me to believe that there have been dinosaurs that's been contemporaries in time. You have the legend of Mokele and Bimbe over in the Congo, the Roapan over in
is that Papua New Guinea?
And the Congamato also in the Congo.
Classic Loch Ness Monster. Really, if you go back, you got plenty of newspaper articles of individuals that seen sea serpents or
and even a young lady named Katie Elizabeth, who is a cryptozoologist who currently is researching into Champ very heavily. You might want to look her up.
Yeah.
She'll probably give you some really good information.
I actually have her book, a Champ.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got her book?
Yeah.
I've been meaning to pick that up.
But yeah, I think any fair mind, people say, well, they're crazy and believe something like that. I'm not going to listen to anything else they say. Well, I don't believe the world's nearly as old as we're told that it is. I think we're a much younger creation. And I do believe that, there were dinosaurs right alongside man throughout history. There may even be a few stragglers around, I can't prove it, but that's what I believe.
A few years back, I'm not sure if you mentioned this already, they found a fossilized footprint. It was a fossilized human footprint, and a dinosaur actually came in and stepped in the mud right next to it and pushed the mud into the human print, and it all fossilized like that. I think they call it the Delk.
The Delk print, I think.
Like that.
Yeah, and they actually put it in an MRI machine,
There's a circular
or a
CAT
CT stand, yeah. And you could see the compression marks of the dinosaur track where it stepped into the mud. Now, of course, science is going to say, well, there's a million ways to explain that, but the one they always use is it's a hoax. Whereas there have been more hoaxes in the field of science, like the Piltdown Man, where Pierre Teilhard de Chardin and some of his cronies faked the Piltdown Man, So there's been more hoaxes in the field of evolution than there ever has been on the side of the creationist.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in many ways a Fortean as well, and any real Fortean who's read the works of Charles Fort is particularly suspicious of the scientific establishment and the way that it ignores things that doesn't fit its paradigm. But something I've always thought about dinosaurs and as well is there's been this ubiquitous tradition of dragons living alongside almost every culture, and it seems very suspicious to me that every culture on the planet has tales of these large reptiles essentially, and it seems to me to be something certainly that science should perhaps be investigating a little bit more than just poo-pooing. But of course that's what science does, as Charles Fort told us. It ignores everything which doesn't fit its model. So
No, I didn't hear much of that at all. I'm sorry. It's really breaking up here. I don't know if it's the storm or what.
I was just saying that dragons might likely have been
dragons
dinosaurs as well.
Yeah, you know that Marco Polo, when he was in China, wrote of the emperor raising dragons to pull chariots.
Yeah, that's a fascinating story.
So there's several historical people who have written about actual dragons.
Okay, some guy just threatened to shut our channel down.
All right, buddy, you go ahead. You shut our channel down.
I'm going to let you know you just made a mistake. That Roger person, whoever he is, made a story up. I don't believe his story at all, and I just never saw the guy. I'm going to arrest former government agency, and I can shut your effing channel down on YouTube and make your life a living HE double hockey stick.
Oh, really? Well, go ahead. My life's already a living hell. I'm recently widowed. What can you do to me?
All righty. You have a good day then.
You have a nice day, buddy.
Gosh, there's a lot of trolls out there on the interwebs.
I might just... I don't know. That's weird.
In fact, if you'd like my address, I can give it to you. You can come and see me personally if you'd like that. Just let me know.
Good grief, we might have a troll come guest brawl live on the show. That would be
We'll deal with him after this, I guess.
Yeah.
So
what's he upset about?
He sent some big story. I just kind of briefly read over it. I think he's saying that he has the guy who is there at the massacre and that Roger's alive and he can shut down our channel. So I don't know.
Shut it down. I'll just open another one.
Making a YouTube account's easy, I guess. It's always something
enjoy yourself
every day.
Speaking of YouTube, Elijah, what's your next video project on the YouTube channel? Do you have something in the works at the moment?
Well, we got a documentary we're working on. We're constantly working on the next part of our Bell Witch series. That's going to be it's a huge undertaking. We 2 parts in and working on the 3rd part. Probably going to end up being like 6 parts, something like that. But right now we're working on a documentary about a place really not far at all from LBL, just extremely close, but it's full of Bigfoot activity, and we believe Dogman as well. And we think everybody's going to like that. It's really interesting project area called Indian Mound, Tennessee.
Huh.
Yeah, we've actually recorded what we believe are some Dogman noises out there and some Bigfoot noises. I know sometimes when we was researching out there that years before there had been a donkey that lived in a property a couple miles up the road from it, and only donkey in the area, but yet you'd be camping and something would come up behind your tent and would start making donkey noises. Even after the donkey was gone, we believe it was a Sasquatch because it would mimic other animals, and it would come up there and it would yell like a donkey behind the tent and around the property. One night it was imitating this donkey and it got strangled and got choked. And you could hear it like almost clearing its throat where it got strangled trying to imitate this donkey.
Huh.
Good grief. When you're in the field, do you have a different approach to when you're out, say, doing Sasquatch investigations compared to when you're out doing a Dogman investigation? Like, is there a different approach there?
Well, there's one thing we did learn that a lot of times when we would do Bigfoot research, we would use a dog whistle and blow it, and we'd get, interactions that ranged anywhere from, a tree knock to a wolf, or even something that would start whistling back, imitating a dog whistle. Now, when we blowed it the one time, we got a YouTube documentary called Dark Hollow. The one time we blew it there, it sounded like a T-Rex coming through the woods, tearing trees down. We had to get in the car and leave because whatever it was did not like that dog whistle.
Good night.
But yeah, if you go there and look up our Dark Hollow video and you go when we blow the whistle, 40 seconds later, exactly 40 seconds later, it just sounds like a dinosaur coming through the woods, breaking limbs and trees. It was kind of intense that night.
The fun part was that we had all these fiery tiki torches around us, keeping the area lit. And right when this happened, we packed everything up and was heading home. But the tiki torches kept relighting, so we couldn't get in the car.
Yeah, every time we blow it out, it was like a birthday candle. Trick ones, we'd blow it out and it'd light right back up.
Somebody get me a bottle of water. Pour this.
Yeah,
on
we
this
like
thing.
to never get the things out so we could get out of there.
And then the real fun part was the cars parked right up against the wood line, so you got to go right up where this thing was crashing and making noise, get back in the car.
And we think that the only reason it didn't come all the way out on us was because of the fire that we had, and then we had to put the fire out to get in the car.
Huh. Wow.
Yeah, it gets a little intense sometimes out there. A lot of people, they claim, well, I'd do this or well, you don't know what you do till you're out there. The location we was at was it 47 miles from town, out in the middle of the woods, just right in the midst of the forest, not very far from where the bowman, you've heard about the bowman that died in Land Between the Lakes, that some people say he had a heart attack. Other people say he was attacked by a cryptid. Well, we were right very close to where his body was found, in the site where 2 years earlier, someone had actually seen a Dogman.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's a gentleman out mushroom hunting, and the day was real hot. He got pretty hot, so he took a nap in his tent, and he seen it walking through the wood line.
Gosh, it seems like an area that's just filled with activity.
Yeah.
I've been hogging the questions, though. Jen, do you have a question for Elijah or Johnny?
I actually have never heard of the LBL, so I'm just kind of a little fascinated with these stories.
Well, there is a power line, you know, that they keep cleared out. You can almost follow that power line from the site where the original murder supposedly took place all the way down to where we were run out of the wood. It's about an 8-mile track.
Yeah.
And there are so many hot spots along that power line that I wonder if these things aren't just using that as a thoroughfare.
And supposedly you get a lot of activity over around Hotel California, which is really not far from where the original attack happened, where the 1979 attack happened, a few miles away from where the bow hunter was found.
Yeah, so hopefully in the near future we'll go down there with Roger, Bart, and make a real documentary on our own, and
yes,
just try to give all the information we can.
Can you tell us what the Hotel California is there? I think I kind of know, but I'm not sure if listeners do.
Hotel California was basically I'm not exactly sure the year, but it's just a gentleman who built a big house off in the woods. It's like a 2-story house, and you can actually find old pictures of it when it was in its prime. Had a couple cars parked up in the front of it, and it's just like a big concrete house, really just a concrete 2-story structure in the woods now. A lot of people go up there, and I guess they go up there and party. They've got the whole thing painted. It's terrible looking now. It's covered in neon colored spray paint.
Oh, there's even a model or two that go up there and do photo shoots there.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. I think people get into witchcraft up there. There's a big old pentagram sprayed on the ground.
Yeah. But yeah, there's been people that's been there and seen a dog man right in that area, you know, almost like it was sniffing, trying to find them. Other people who claim right there at the trailhead, you know, that they've seen dogmen there and seen the eyes shine. And so apparently a lot of activity close by it.
You were saying it's a hotspot area. Whenever I think of hotspots, I think of John Keel and the idea that different things manifest in the same area. So other than dogmen and Sasquatches, are there reports of other things there, like strange lights or phantom entities or anything else paranormal?
There's supposedly a ghost light that comes down the highways occasionally, but we've never seen anything like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of people claim to see ghosts. There's a lot of people claim to see UFOs there. Bigfoot, Dogman, weird premonitions, ghostly faces in the woods in certain locations.
I haven't been able to really track it down, but somebody told me they seen like a pterosaur flying over LBL once.
Yeah, I've never seen anything.
I've never heard anything else more about that. I'd like to.
I know there are people that go out there and do different rituals, whether they are little white magic or black magic. I was on a hunt one night with some people doing geocaching, and we wandered up on some people who were doing. Now I've studied like witchcraft and stuff, demonology and stuff for years and years. Strangely, it was a hobby of mine as a kid, you know, and I know the difference between somebody trying to do some kind of white magic, somebody doing really satanic stuff. And whatever was going on in the woods that night was really, really dark magics, you know, like straight out of the Lost Keys or the Lesser Keys of Solomon. You know, those kind of books. But somebody was doing some really dark stuff out there that night, and they run off when we got close to them, and had altars and weird stuff set up. Later on, we run into them in the woods, and they're like, "Oh, we knew some people were coming out doing some geocache, and we was going to set something up and fake it and try to scare them." And I'm like, no, those guys wouldn't know to put this stuff there unless they were really astute students in the occult.
Wow. Well, the LBL certainly seems to be an area which either manifests and or attracts all kinds of strangeness. So I hope that you guys keep investigating and keep letting everybody know what you find. Can you tell us how the audience can either get in touch with you if they have a report? Because I know you collect reports, I believe, and also how they can watch any of your videos or follow your many investigations.
We haven't really made any kind of journal or anything like that.
Probably be a good idea at some point, but that isn't something we've pursued as of yet.
We should, but I want to just be typecast as the LBL guys, even though we do spend more time there than anybody else. There's so many other things that we want to go off and get into. We want to go to where all the darker, bleaker things have happened. People claim that the most terrifying encounters have happened. We want to go and spend some time in Taylor, Mississippi, and
what's that recent place, Cott County?
Yes, where there's 2 people recently killed in Cott County, Tennessee, under mysterious circumstances, animal attacks. We'd like to go spend some time there and see what's going on. And we've got a friend working a case that's very, very grim in Harlan County, Kentucky. We want to take the time to go there and get in on that. This family's besieged by what seems to be dogmen, like killing their sheep and leaving the heads around and just trying to terrify these people, even going so far as to take sticks and beat their electric fence down so they can get back into them.
Gosh.
So we want to get back there and get in on some of that action. Just my wife's death has kind of really thrown us off schedule with a lot of planning.
Oh, I'm sure, and I'm so sorry for that. You were both wonderful guests, however. How does our audience follow you or get in touch with you if they want to?
Elijah, this would be a you question.
To get in touch with us, it should be pretty easy. Really, you just search up Cryptid Studies Institute. We're on Facebook, Instagram. YouTube's our main platform for all of our videos, documentaries. We have a website where you can contact us, Cryptid Studies Institute. It's all pretty straightforward.
We try to keep it simple.
We haven't made it really to Twitter yet, so don't look for us there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who needs Twitter?
Yeah,
you guys were fantastic. Let's keep us posted on your ongoing investigations, and we'll have to have you back on sometime. But until then, thank you again, guys, and keep it weird.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Yes, it was very nice to meet you guys.
Nice to meet you too.
It's lovely to meet you.
All right, friend. You have a great rest of the evening.
You too.
Nice to meet you, Jen.
Nice to meet you too, guys.
Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, John.
Thank you for joining us tonight. If you're interested in checking out more episodes, you can find us at talkingweird.com. If you haven't already, please like the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talking Weird Podcast. Make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to Talking Weird. We're available on most podcast platforms and YouTube. And if you do enjoy the show, please leave us a review. Dean and I would really appreciate it. Until then,